Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker betting show. I am your host, George Elek, and this is the Ladbrokes Winter Carnival preview. Cracking couple of days racing up at Newbury on Friday and Saturday, and we've got a cracking couple of guests here to take you through it. It is, of course, the stable star, Oddschecker's very own tipster, Andy Holding on the line. Andy, great as ever to have you on. These chats are becoming a bit of a weekly thing for me and you on a Thursday.
They are, yes. Yeah, great to be here. I always enjoy doing these, and it kind of whets the appetite, doesn't it? And it gets my mind focused as well. When I'm looking at these races in advance, I'm not scrambling around on Friday night, stroke into Saturday morning, trying to go through all the form. I've already done it, so just really all about the prices and what the conditions are like on the day. So yeah, it definitely gives me a heads up.
I mean, no surprises as well for those listening and watching when your column comes out in the morning. They've heard it all before. Very good as well to have a debutant on. Former jockey Andrew Thornton joins us. Delighted to be able to welcome you. An actual professional here to show us amateurs how it's done.
I'm looking forward to it, George. It's always a great meeting, the Ladbrokes Trophy weekend, and formerly the Hennessy, and having been lived in Highclere for 10 years, which was literally five minutes from the course. It was my local track, so the buzz in the area was absolutely huge, and I always thought this was the biggest handicap in the calendar by a country mile before Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's hope this is the only year that this meeting will have the empty stands in. Fingers crossed this time next year we're talking about a packed Newbury again. And you're right to say, I think it's probably been nearly a decade since there was the Hennessy, but I still find myself calling it the Hennessy most times. I have to catch myself. But it is, of course, the Ladbrokes Trophy, and we'll get on to that. But we're going to start with the racing tomorrow, just for the viewers and the listeners. We're recording this at about 10 to 11 on Thursday. So tomorrow's racing Friday. Then we'll get on to Saturday's racing as well. And before we start with the racing, just going to point you in the direction of the Oddschecker app. It is the very best place for all the best bookie offers, the best prices, which we'll be talking about today as well, the free bets and the very best place terms. So make sure you download the app. And how can I forget? It's also the first place to find Andy's tips every morning as well. So do download that. Now then, let's get on to the racing. And it starts tomorrow at 12:15. And the first race on the day is immediately a very, very interesting one, especially probably for you, Andy, because we know you like your novice hurdlers. And this maiden hurdle has Flinta Sacra as 8 to 11 favourite on the day. My Drogo 5 to 2. Shosholikov 7 to 1. Can 8 to 1. 22 to 1 bar. Flinta Sacra also 12 to 1 currently for the Supreme at Cheltenham in March. From your numbers, from what you've seen, Andy, how does Flinta Sacra stack up?
Well, he hasn't got anything what you would call a championship time figure yet, but I mean, you'd expect that from a horse of his nature. He's had a couple of runs in bumpers, and what we've seen of him, he looks the real deal, doesn't he? He didn't really come off the bridle at Kempton last time we saw him. We don't really know how good he's going to be. Obviously, he's bred in the purple, as his name suggests, and he's got the engine and the physique to go with it. This is a race tradition, I think. I think this race, off the top of my head, used to be called the Speed Novices Hurdle. Going back through the years, Nicky's always had a really good record in this race, so he tends to run what he considers to be his best novice, or certainly one of his best novices in this race. Whether I want to take one to two about him is open to question, because I think he's got some decent opposition to beat. I thought my Drago ran a really encouraging race in a good Cheltenham bumper, won by one of Nicky's incidentally. I Am Superman. I think the form of that race is pretty good. The time figure was very good. And then you chuck in the point-to-point of Shosholikov, who having his first run for Harry Whittington. Harry Course is bringing along some really nice young novices as well. I saw his point-to-point video when trained by Michael Goff in Ireland, and he looked really good at staying on very strongly. And then the Hobson runner is no back number either. So he'll have some opposition. This isn't exactly a cakewalk. Whether I'll have a bet in the race or not is open to question. But I think we're all looking forward to seeing Flinta Sacra. And I'm sure Andrew is going to wax lyrical about him too.
Well, I was going to say, Andrew, I mean, it's such an exciting time of the year, this, isn't it? Because you have these prospects who could be anything, and it's so exciting to see them reappearing.
And Nicky Henderson, traditionally, this is his first meeting. Yes, he has runners through the time. Paul Nicholls traditionally starts at Chepstow, has a great time of things. But this, Nicky Henderson targets it like Paul Nicholls targets Chepstow. So you're always very wary. They're always probably going to be short enough Nicky's horses, but he looks the part. He'll be fit. The horses are well forward from what we've seen so far. The others, so Sholikov, I hadn't looked through his form. The horse that was second to him was a horse called We Have It. He hasn't won in 8 points. I'm not sure whether that was the strongest maiden that he won when he did. And I thought Can of Philip Hobbs's would certainly be better going this way around, having unseated rider when diving out to the left at Exeter last time out. And if you're an each-way player, I think Can would be my each-way play against the favourite.
Can 8-1 currently. That is a fifth, the 3. So a lovely each-way shape to the race. We'll move on then. We're going to go through the cards. We're going to miss out most of the handicaps, but I'll give both Andrew and Andy an opportunity at the end of each day to go back to flag up any. But because Andy is the king of the novice hurdlers, we can't skip over the 1:15, which sees a small field. Just 5 run. Brave Man's Game is currently 6-4 favourite, just ahead of Bothwell Bridge. Realstone 9-2, Esperfecto 9-1, and Diocletian 20-1. Andy, do you think not much to separate the top to market? How do you have them?
Yeah, they're both really nice horses, these two. I was hugely impressed with Bothwell Bridge when he won at Warwick. His jumping was spectacular. Never put a foot wrong. Very, very agile. In and out over the hurdles very quickly. Set a good gallop. Clocked a big number. But he's facing a really good prospect here in the shape of Brave Man's Game. Now, we'll get a chance to look at Brave Man's Game's form today as we speak, because in the first race, the horse that chased him home, Brunswick Bay, who incidentally I have tipped on the oddschecker pages, is due to run in the first race at Taunton for Emma Lavelle. If he wins, he'll boost that form line. He never really came off the board for beat Brunswick Bay, who have got really good form in bumpers. Both of them have clocked identical time figures. I've got 68 for Bothwell Bridge and a 66 for Brave Man's Game. So there isn't a great deal between them. They've both got tons of scope. They're both, I think, are going to improve significantly on what they did first time to second time. It's a very difficult matchup, and they're priced, as you say, absolutely bang on the button, sort of 6-4 each or two. So a very difficult choice between the two. I don't really think the other three have got much chance. Diocletian jumped poorly at Taunton on his debut. Real Stone was a real shock winner for Dan Skelton the other day. I spoke to one or two of his men behind the scenes, and they couldn't believe it. He managed to win that day. So it'd be a shock if he was managed to beat the front two. But I've always had a soft spot for Bothwell Bridge ever since he got beat at Kempton in a very good bumper when we last saw him last year. And given that what Andrew says about Nicky, I think he's absolutely spot on. He'll have him absolutely tuned up. I think he'll go off in front and he'll make this a really good test.
Andrew, anything to add to that? Can you see any gap between these front two, or could you see anything else springing up a bit of a surprise?
Well, Real Stone, the ground will be a lot quicker at Newbury than what he encountered in entry, and he looked like he's a huge horse, and he wants lots of dig in the ground. So I think he'll get tapped for toe. Bothwell Bridge, I always equate Warwick ground conditions very similar to Newbury. Gravelly track. Newbury's on an old airfield. Very similar sort of ground conditions. Bothwell Bridge, for me, is the one who's likely to roll away. The way he jumped round there, he was exhilarating. We always say, don't we? He looks every inch a chaser. Yeah, well, every horse we always want to be chasers, but we have to bide our time. But he has such a high cruising speed. He was effortless at these hurdles, and for me, visually, he excited me when I saw him round there, and he's certainly furnished, having from the back of last season to this. Nico, keep it straightforward, and we all know, and Andy will probably echo this. Nico de Bonville, dangerous from the front. When he gets out in front, rolling away, they won't be hanging around here. If he gets 2 out the gate and he's 2 clear, that's 2 lengths the other horse has to make up. And in my book, that's a half a second. And when you're on a horse that jumps and rolls away, it's exciting. Bothwell Bridge, 6-4, I think is a good price.
Andrew, it's interesting because we don't often have people on the podcast who've actually ever sat on a horse, so it makes a change to have that this time. I mean, to talk, every track has its quirks, and we know that. But when it comes to Newbury, from you watching a race, is there any position that you'd like to see, especially in these small fields as we're seeing this coming weekend? Would you like to see your horses going from the front, or is it just a case of horses for courses, for want of a better phrase?
Well, the ground conditions in Newbury, I believe, are probably going to be the quickest they've had it in a long time. And I always think that it's the second meeting at Newbury. We haven't had a frost, which is key. Mm-hmm. So it's been able to dry out all the time. There may be a frost on Friday night, I believe, possibly. But it's a dry focus. It's a gravelly track. I'd want to be on the front end. End of story. It's ground that you make up, and very rarely will you see the senior jockeys like this going too quick in front. You don't. It just doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. He's such an accurate, so accurate at his hurdles and fences, and I'd go as far as to say he's one of the most accurate jockeys I have seen.
Wow. While we're on the same subject, Andrew, obviously you rode Newbury hundreds of times. Did you always have a game plan before you went out there with regards which part of the track you'd come in down the home straight? Would you come towards the stand rail traditionally, or would you always think, I'm going to stay on the inside road? Or would you just walk the track and playing it accordingly?
Well, in the old days, we're going back a while, the old days, you'd always say, get yourself right across to the stands rail. But what people maybe don't know is that that rail got moved. They pinched about 5 yards of the flat track a few years ago. It's not the place you want to be. You don't want to be in the old part of the flat track because that traditionally is a little bit slower. So, don't know where the hurdles be this weekend, but I'd say, look, shortest way around.
Yeah.
It won't matter this meeting because the ground's going to be so good. It's just going to be good ground, and there's no rain forecast.
Right, onwards now then to the 150 on Friday at Newbury, and it is the Novices Chase, the Grade 2, over about 2.5 miles, and it's a trappy one. Three horses will be running. Fiddler on the Roof is the even money favourite. Caribbean Boy 2-1, and Getaway Trump 4-1. Getaway Trump, interestingly, I mean, the market got this completely wrong last week. Raced against the Kim Bailey Happy Go Lucky, which went off about 4-9 after they were about pick 'em in the morning. But Getaway Trump got up to win at 5-2, and Getaway Trump, that kind of horse. Andrew, we'll talk about that in a second. But firstly, Andy, coming over to you first. 3 runners here. We spoke to Ed Quigley last week in the Horses to Follow podcast. He had Fiddler on the Roof as one of his 5. Would you be wanting to get involved here at even money?
I think this is going to be a race that's very much decided by tactics. Who's going to make the run? And I'd imagine, given that the other two like to be held up, that Robbie Power will go off in front on Fiddler on the Roof. He's made the run with him before. He didn't necessarily have to lead the other day at Exeter. He had a horse that took him along. So I think he's going to be quite difficult to beat. His jumping was very good at Exeter. And if he can translate that kind of technique to Newbury, no reason why he wouldn't on a flat track. I think he's probably the one to beat. Caribbean Boy probably has to settle a little bit better than he has done. He's a bit of not a tearaway, but he's definitely taken a while to sort of calm down. I think Kevin Mooney does a lot of his schooling at home, and they've probably worked on him since he last won at Haydock. He was quite good that day, albeit he wasn't exactly that well fancied. And Getaway Trump surprised me like he surprised the market the other day. I was amazed that he managed to beat the Kim Bailey horse who got a freebie off the front, and he managed to outstay him, very much suggesting that 2.5 miles is his trip rather than going flat out over 2 miles, because he has made mistakes over 2 miles before when they've gone a really good gallop. So an intriguing contest, not one that I'm going to be putting up on my oddschecker column for sure. But yeah, Fiddler on the Roof, he's a class act, and I'd hope to see him continue his progress.
Not a massive betting heat, but Andy, I mean, if you were pricing this up, but you have, I mean, we've got even money 2-1, 4-1. Would you agree with that?
So I think they've got this market spot on. They've got the untapped potential of Caribbean Boy in second in. You know, you won't want to be going gung ho about a big price about one of Nicky's in a novice chase around Newbury, given that he could have had probably 6 or 7 horses from his yard running in this race. Getaway Trump, I think, he's the fit and now ready horse, but he's basically here because there's going to be nothing else for him in the middle of winter because he wants good ground. And they're not necessarily thinking Cheltenham with him. If it's good ground at Cheltenham with him, fine, but he's probably more of a grand annual horse rather than an Arkle horse. I don't think he's quite that good, or something a little bit further. So yeah, I think as it stands at the moment, he's very much the Fiddler on the Roof is definitely the best horse of the three on what he's done so far. And, of course, with his back class over hurdles as well. Don't forget he's a Grade 1 winner for Tolworth.
Andrew, we spoke briefly off air there, and fair to say you're going to pick some holes in the favourite.
100%. I love Fiddler on the Roof. If it was heavy ground, or soft ground, I'd favour him. But on good ground, he's never, ever won on good ground. Never won on good ground. Whereas you've got the likes of Nicky Henderson's good ground, bit of a question mark, but I can't see why this horse won't handle it. The form looks strong. The French form looks very strong. In a listed race, got beaten by a horse called Lou Bucks, who's won 4 since. So that form has a real solid look to it. And Getaway Trump, all 5 wins on good ground. As Andy alluded to, doesn't like cutting the ground. It's going to be proper top of the ground at Newbury. Fiddler on the Roof on that ground. I love the horse, but I just can't see him being quick enough.
The things with Fiddler on the Roof, I eyed him down as a soft, heavy ground slugger as well. And yeah, he ran his worst race on real bad ground at Cheltenham. He's two or three runs on good or good to soft ground have been pretty good. He only got nutted by Edwardstone over a sharp 2 mile. Good to soft in places at Exeter the other day. So I don't necessarily think he needs a bob, but I certainly take your point of view with his career record. You've definitely got a good point.
I mean, the ground at Newbury, especially on that chase track, the times they're going to be faster than standard. I just can't see him. I just think his forte is when he won the Tolworth, he outstayed the opposition on slow ground and he ground his way up that hill. I just question the ground conditions for him, and hence why I'd be the outsider. Getaway Trump. He loves top of the ground. He's one of those horses who's got the back class. You think he carried 11 stone 12 at Sandown and beat Harrowby, who had 11 stone, who was bang there in the Betfair. It was bang there in the Betfair hurdle at Newbury when brought down, and was running a big race in the handicap hurdle there at Cheltenham when it came down at the last. So I just think his form, his horses, he's not a sexy horse, but he's let a lot of people down when he's been well fancied. But the way he's fit, he's hard, and you may argue this is what I'd call a bit of his Gold Cup before Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah,
definitely. This is his race. And I'm with the outsider. I think he's the value.
The outsider of the three is 4-1 Getaway Trump there. So some food for thought, I guess, for Fiddler on the Roof backers and Caribbean Boys. I said 2-1, an intriguing affair, whatever happens. On now to the 3 o'clock, the Ladbrokes Long Distance Hurdle and Paisley Park's reappearance. Paisley Park is 2-1, McFabulous 5-2, Somerville Boy 11-2, Time Hill 11-2, Stayers Hurdle at Cheltenham winner. Liz Nagar Oscar 11-1, broke Andy's heart, who had Ronald Pump behind in second. Andy, will come to you first here, 18-1 bar, I should say. Honest Vic, though, a lot of money coming for Honest Vic, 20-1 best price at the moment, but a sea of blue on oddschecker. Andy, will start with Paisley Park, a horse that I think has captured the hearts of a nation really over the last couple of years. It was disappointing to see that run at Cheltenham. How do we approach this with that run? That's the last time we saw him.
With a certain amount of trepidation, it has to be said. I mean, you'd never write off a horse like Paisley Park just off the back of one run, particularly in the National Hunt Sphere. We've seen the superstars come back and time again. When we've written them off, that's it, they've gone just after one run. But as it stands, I think the staying division, in particular the Stayers Hurdle last season, was a very weak renewal. Not necessarily because Liz Nagar Oscar won it. We could all say that, he's a 50-1 shot and straight away think, it can't be a good race. But to be fair, Ronald Pump went into the race in good form. I mean, I fancied him. I wouldn't be here doing this podcast if Ronald Pumper won the Stayers Hurdle. I think I'll be on some Caribbean island still sipping pina coladas. I haven't got him for
you and I both, Andy. That's why I remember it.
I hadn't got him for a small house. I got him for a I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here mansion, I think. Castle.
The place money must have been okay then.
The place money was all right, but I wasn't interested in the place money.
Hey, I'm pleased to hear he's got over it anyway.
Yeah, I can't watch the video. I can't watch the video, Andrew, without throwing up into a bucket. But I did a hell of a lot of work, as you probably have already gathered, having done these podcasts, on the overall time figure compared to the per attempts final, and particularly the sectional times. I put the two videos up side by side, ran them from the first hurdle in front of the stands all the way to the winning line. The difference between the per attempts final and the Stayers hurdle final was unreal. I've sent this video out to a few of my mates, and they almost think I've sent them the wrong video, or there's a bit missing. They were halfway up the running in the Stayers hurdle when the per attempts winner, Sir de Burley, got over the line. So I've backed Sir de Burley to win the Stayers crown. I think he's the best stayer that there is in this division, either side of the Irish Sea. And of course, he won first time out this year over 2.5 miles, so he's safe in the bag. So I'm looking towards this race, thinking, well, I want to be against Lisnagar, Oscar, Paisley Park, all those horses that took part in the Stayers hurdle, and we've got some nice horses coming through. McFabulous, he's looked the real deal, but up to now, 2.5 miles is his trip. I think he'll probably get 3 miles, but this is a real test. This is a very good renewal of this race, certainly numerically and quality all the way through. And don't forget, he only just beat Courton. Well, not just beat. He beat Courton Bold, who is, with the greatest respect to him, probably an overblown summer jumping horse. I'd certainly pay a huge respect to Time Hill, who was a good fourth in the above average Albert Bartlett this year. He's won the Challow hurdle here as well. He's got to be a player if he's fit enough to do himself justice. But then we are getting on to that Sea of Blue horse, Honest Vic. Now, this is the one I really like at the prices.
Is that why it's all blue, Andy?
I've had a few runners trying to get me on this morning. Yeah, I've seen the 20 to 1 of floating
the
around.
shops are closed.
I know. I've got many places.
Of course.
Can sort me out. Yeah, I really do like this animal. The first time he had 3 miles the other day at Cheltenham, he absolutely bolted up. His sectional times from sort of the back end of that part of that race were in keeping with the 2 milers. The overall time was the fastest on the card. He stayed the trip really well. And I don't think he's got a great deal to find with the sort of best horses in this race, even though the rating suggests that, you're looking at 160 odd horses here. But some of them I don't think are that level. I think they've been slightly blown out of proportion. And I really do like him. I think he's still on the improve. So that's definitely a race up for grabs, with doubts about lots of them with regards to the trip, fitness, and where they are just at the moment health wise. So I'm going to go with Honest Vic.
Honest Vic, 20 to 1, best price at the moment. That's with Bet365. But judging by prices we're seeing elsewhere, 12 to 1 with 888 Sport, 12 to 1 with Unibet, 14 to 1 with Betfair Sportsbook, Bet Victor Paddy's, Sky Bet. It feels unlikely that 20 to 1 is going to be around for too much longer about Honest Vic. Andrew, I mean, obviously Andy looks at this from kind of a purely punting point of view, and this is a betting show. But let's talk about Paisley Park for a second, because that run back in March was kind of too bad to be true. And there is a chance that come 3 o'clock or 10 past 3 on Saturday, that 2 to 1 could look very big indeed.
From that perspective, and especially the way the Yards horses are running at the moment, they're Emma Lavelle's. They've been in good form for probably the best part of the last 6 weeks, and just in good nick, real good nick. He goes well fresh. If he hadn't run at Cheltenham, if he happened to miss Cheltenham, he'd be 2s on, wouldn't it? It was one of those races that was too bad to be true. Yes, he comes off the bridle at Cheltenham. He hits that flat spot, but he never really jumped at Cheltenham, and he didn't travel any part of the race, to be perfectly honest. And I thought he did well to finish where he did.
Yeah,
because he looked like he was going to be pulled up for, he just was not going at all. So, yeah, and Lisnagar Oscar obviously put on a career best performance at Cheltenham, sadly for Andy, and he's got an inflated. I think he's got an inflated rating. But one thing he will do, he'll love the ground conditions. He's got a man on board in Sean Boyne, who's he's probably as hot a jockey at the moment as Dave Bass and Harry Cobden and Nico de Bonville. So riding with lots of confidence. So he'll have that on his side. He's going to stay well. But I just feel that McFabulous is tuned up. Yes, he only beat Courton Bold at the Persian War, but crikey, he couldn't have done it in any better fashion. It was effortless fashion, and his run at Kempton, because obviously he didn't go to Cheltenham because he missed the cut, and he got balloted out. And it was, he loves a flat track. That's what he loves, McFabulous. A flat track, good ground. I'm not saying he'll be the best horse as the season goes on, but I emphasise again, it's going to be real top of the ground. The emphasis on stamina won't come in as much at Newbury this time around. And as Andy alluded to, how these races are run, these graded races, aren't run like handicaps. They're not often flat to the pan and end-to-end gallops. You don't often get that. Now, this is a bigger field than we often get. I think McFabulous is just going to have too much toe for them.
So McFabulous there, the pick for Andrew at 5-2. That is there with Bet365, Sky Bet, Hills, 10Bet, Sport Nation, Genting Bet, and Red Zone. Best price 9-4 elsewhere. That brings us to a close of the feature races we are going to be talking about on Friday, but I'll give, there's plenty of decent handicappers racing on Friday as well. So before we move on to Saturday's racing, Andy, any horses running that you'd like to just maybe point out now as ones to watch out for?
I'd certainly pay a huge amount of respect for old Grangewood in the 225. I thought he was a bit unlucky the way things developed at Aintree the day. I thought he should have won the Old Roan. Harry probably hit the front too soon. He was obviously on a horse that had tons underneath him going to the cross fence. 4 out, and he jumped it so clean. He found himself in front. I don't think that was necessarily the way he wanted to ride him that day. Hit the front that far out, and he kind of got left stranded a little bit. And then he went down to the last, still looking like he might win, and then he literally rooted it up the inside, and he ended up getting beat 7 lengths, which I didn't think did him a whole lot of justice, but he's got a fantastic record here at Newbury. He beat Kalashnikov here last season. He likes good ground. And I think Harry, given the way what happened to him last time and knowing how this race is likely to pan out, will hold on to him a little bit longer. If I can get something in and around the 4-5-1 mark for him each way, it'd be hard to see him with a clear round not being involved. So yeah, I'll be very keen on Old Grangewood to turn the tables on Clondor Castle in the that big chase.
Old Grangewood 9-2 at the moment, just ahead of Clondor Castle. Hills have gone 4 places though, so it might be worth waiting until the day, see if any other firms boost those place terms. 11 in at the moment. Andrew, any for you on Friday?
Yeah, I was slightly worried with Old Grangewood. He's £12 higher than last year. That would be my slight worry, and he has to. Everything has to fall. Everything does have to fall right for him. But I thought in the same, Defi Sacra, I thought was a big price.
Definitely.
Because he loves Newbury as well. And when you think he beat Amula Gold here in December last year, and Amula Gold was a hairbreadth off winning Ascot last week, and you may say slightly unlucky because came with a real rattle. He got beaten by the big bite up at Aintree, who was very well punted from the Henry Oliver yard there at Aintree about 3 weeks ago. And I just thought a horse back at that track with a featherweight on his back, I thought Defi Sacra was a good each way play.
Yeah, he was the second one I was looking at as well. The only thing I've ruled him out on is the trip. I'm not sure whether 2.5 miles is necessarily. He's never run over 2.5 miles, so that was the only reason I kind of knocked him out.
I'm looking forward to the Thornton versus Holding race coming. Defi and Old Grangewood going toe to toe down the back straight. Defi Sacra is 10-1, 10-1 there with Betfair, Paddy Power, BetVictor, and a couple of others as well.
And one horse that will be backed is Cepage, because Venetia's, I thought she had
flying
treble on Thursday and Wednesday. Sorry, but the ground, will it be soft enough for Cepage? It'd be interesting to see.
Worth pointing out that treble, that hat trick yesterday was in part thanks to an 8-on shot falling at the second last as well, which I think probably stung a few people's accas on the day. Serves you right if you're back 1 to 8 shots, to be honest. We'll move on now to Saturday's racing, and because we're recording this at 11:20, the markets are kind of reforming, so we don't sadly have the breadth of prices as we would like, but it doesn't stop us speaking about the races because we do have the final fields. We're going to start with the Ladbrokes John Frankham Novices Chase, the Grade 2, over just short of 3 miles and 6 run here. It's a 12:40 on Saturday. We've got Hold the Note, 1 for the team, Kaluki, AC Milan, Southfield Stone, and Next Destination. Andy, which one? We're waiting. Prices will probably be out in the next hour or so. who do you reckon will come out towards the top end of the market, or who do you think should come out towards the top end of the market?
I'd imagine that Kaluki probably just hold sway. His course and distance win was very impressive. I know he made mistakes here, there, and everywhere. He's just that kind of horse. I think he's a little bit ignorant. Hopefully, he'll continue to learn and book his ideas up in that department as time goes on. Because when you go into sort of Grade 1 company, you can't afford to keep making mistakes. But he never looked like falling, funny enough. He's one of those ones that just bulldozed his way through a couple of them, but he never looked like he was going to fall. But he's flat speed in between, and the way he just moved through these races. I mean, he's a massive unit. He's always looked a nice horse in his in his formative years. But now he really does look the part. Now he's at a 6-year-old. I think the sky's the limit with him because he's got a great engine. He has got an amazing amount of scope. And yeah, I think he's probably going to want to beat. The fact that he's gone around the track before, he usually likes to make the running because he's an exuberant type. He could have one or two of these at it early on. Obviously, Nichols has got a couple of nice ones in here. For Next Destination, first time out, ran really well behind Rosaka in a graded hurdle. And Surfieldstone got brushed aside readily by Protectorat, but that time figure was very good at Cheltenham. So it's a very good race, even though there's only 6 runners. But I like what I saw with Kaluki first time out.
Kaluki for Andy. Andrew, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think it's strong form, and I do like the fact we're going to Newbury first time out on what I call an easy track. It's not going to take too much out of you. You know, when you're coming back again, as you mentioned, courses for courses, very difficult to pick holes in the form. Southfield Stone, you just feel that Paul Nicholls knows where he is with this one. Yes, you just you're running. You're going to run it in. You're going to run in graded chases, and you're hoping to fall on. You're going to hope to fall on one. Give it. I know it's only £3, but you've still got to give £3 away as well. So yeah, Kaluki, no holes, looks a horse who could well progress, and I would think will have learned from that first experience. I don't mind horses that make mistakes and stand up. That's what you like to see. It's the ones that barely make a mistake and come down. They're the ones that annoy you. But horses make little mistakes. They are novices after all, and this horse has got the hot course form in the bag.
There you go. So some positive words there for Kaluki. We'll wait and see what the prices say when they do come out. The good news, because we don't really like talking about. I mean, we are oddschecker after all. Talking about horses without knowing the prices doesn't really make too much sense, but luckily for the 225, the next race, we're talking about the listed handicap hurdle. Well, a handicap, but I don't think these horses are destined for handicaps for too much longer. In the 225, and Marie's Rock is the 11-8 favourite. Time White 6-1, Milkwood 13-2, Botox has 15-2, Floressa 2, Sebastopol 10-1 for Tom Lacey, 20-1 bar Andy. Interesting little race this, and Marie's Rock, surely the horse that could really be. She could be destined for great things. Entries obviously for the Mares Hurdle at Cheltenham.
Yeah, I mean this race has got a rich tradition over the years. I'm sure Andrew's ridden in it loads of times. You often get horses working their way through the ranks from handicap grade that end up as champion hurdle horses. Probably not necessarily in all the same season like Epitante did last year, but everyone's put 2 and 2 together here, and they looked at Marie's Rock thinking, well, Nicky Henson, first time out, mare, look what happened to Epitante. We're going to get the same thing here with Marie's Rock. Not necessarily that'll be the case. I do think she's a really nice filly in the making. Her technique was a little bit iffy on occasions when she won 3 races last season. And I think she's probably just going to have to improve just a little bit on what she's done anyway. So certainly justify her favouritism mark around about 7-4, 2-1, something like that. I think that's fair. What price?
11-8 now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's plenty short enough myself. I do like it, but I wouldn't go anywhere near at the price. With the dead 9 runners going to post, hopefully that we'll get at least 8. I'm looking for something each way against her, and I really do like Milkwood here. The form of that Welsh champion hurdle is the best of its kind, other than the Great Wood hurdle itself, won by the shunter at Cheltenham. But you look at the horses who win that. Sco Royal went on to win the elite hurdle. 11 stone 10 to victory in the aforementioned Great Wood hurdle at Cheltenham, and Buzz absolutely trotted up at Ascot last week. Maria de Pale, a horse that I napped the other day at Wetherby, was 15 lengths behind back in 5th. Everything out of that race has won or run an unbelievable race since. The time figure when I did it at the time, I thought, God, this race is going to be good. But I didn't realise it was going to be that good. And I was a bit disappointed with Milkwood because I tipped him that day and I put him up each way and he finished fourth. I thought, God almighty, I was really let down there. But as the time figure suggested and as the form has suggested, he probably didn't run as bad as it looked at the time. He came there on the bridle as well, 2 out. He just couldn't go with those quality horses from 2 out, but he certainly ran really well. He likes fast ground. He likes to be held up and put out towards the back. Robbie Dunn's a great exponent of that art, and I could just see him sidling up to them there, 2 out. Whether he goes by something that might just have a few pound in hand, I don't know. But I'll be amazed if Milkwood isn't good enough to finish in the first race. So he's be a good solid each way pick there, based on what he did last time.
There we go. It's taken a while, but finally a certified Andy Holding tip. Milkwood, 13-2 at the moment, each way against Marie's Rock. Andrew, what are your thoughts here?
Do you know, I love horses with Marie's Rock's profile. Those ones next to her name.
Yeah.
What's not?
You can't argue with them, can you?
What's not like? I was at Foss last when she won her first bumper, and I spoke to Nico afterwards and said that was impressive. She looks good, and he just smiled, you know. And the way she went,
a few words, isn't he?
Yeah, that's all you need, though.
Yeah.
That's all you need. And the way she went through that race at Haydock, gosh, she was keen. And she still bolted up, absolutely bolted. I think she's absolutely thrown in off a mark. She managed to beat Midnight's Gift of Alan King's last season, giving it £11 and an 8-length beating. Now, Midnight's Gift, probably wasn't a great race, but bolted up at Fakenham the other day and absolutely hacked up, has an official mark of 133 now. Now, Marie's Gift off 141. Natural progression tells me, I just think she's got absolutely bags in hand. Bags in hand. She goes fresh. She goes on good ground. She'll just sit in behind the pace. She's a real strong traveller. I see no holes in the form. You've got Time White, second favourite in there. Beat the pink in a Seamus Mullins' last time. Well, Time White's gone up 12 for that. Now, the pink ran well at Cheltenham off the back of that. But I wouldn't have the Pinkin in the same parish as Marie's Rock. And I just think she's very, very well handicapped. You know, you look through the race, it's a bit more of it's almost like a conditions race in frame. You know, top weight's given £5 to quite a few others. Just think she's absolutely thrown in. And I know what price would she have started if she'd gone to Cheltenham last year? She didn't get there, but what price would she have been?
Yeah.
Yeah. She probably would have been close to favourite, yeah.
I think I'd have her as an even money chance. I think she's an absolute rocket.
There we go.
Well handicapped of 141.
So Marie's Rock off 141, 11-8. Very good, Andrew. I'm happy to have you on here because too often we get the guests on and they just pander to Andy. So it's good to have somebody to take on his time figures, and fingers crossed you come out on top.
Andy, I know one. I think from Andy's point of view, if she was 9-4, he thinks she'd be good value.
Of course.
She's 11-8, thinks the value's gone. But if you think she's value, if you think she's value at 9-4, she's still value at 11-8.
She's just traditionally not. I mean, George will know me, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners would. And the clients who subscribe to oddschecker would know me pretty much by now. If I get a race like that, I'm never normally, am I, George, looking at a 5-4 shot and having a 4-point win on it. If I can see something that I think is almost going to certainly hit the frame, I'll just let nature take its course, as it were. I'm thinking, well, mine's going to be in the first 3, and if that sort of is achieved, then I've done my job, as it were. If something's good enough to beat me and I walk away having a good run for my money and it's finished second or third and we make a few quid by nicking the frame, then fair enough. But I think as time goes on, most of the time I'm always looking to take on a short price favourite, particularly when you've got a shape of a race of that nature with sort of 8-9 runners.
I'm looking from the jockey's perspective. I love being on these ones. The ones with the ones next to the name, they're mine.
We've got to move on now because we need to finish off with, of course, the big one, the Ladbrokes Trophy. And before we get to it, we have a giveaway for the watchers on YouTube. This is the last time we're doing this, so your last chance to get your hands on Timeform's Horses to Follow book for the 2020-2021 season. We have 3 copies available to give away. So if you want one, please just comment below this video and we will send 3 lucky winners at random their copies. So just right below, we've got plenty more content coming out on the YouTube channel over the next month or so, but this is the very last chance to get your hands on one of these books. So thanks very much to Timeform for providing them, and just comment below for your chance to win one of 3 copies of their Horses to Follow book. Right, enough of that now, on to the big one, eh? We've been speaking for about 45 minutes, and now we can talk about the Ladbrokes Trophy, where Vindication is the 6-1 favourite ahead of Kildesart at 15-2. I write 15-2 as well. Oh, Bet365 have literally come up with their prices as I'm speaking, so let's start from the top. Vindication is 6-1, still best price. I write 15-2. Kildesart now 8-1. That's with Bet365. The conditional 8-1. Black Op 17-2. Copperhead 9-1. 2 for Gold 10-1. Cloth Cap 12-1. Secret Investor 12-1. 16-1. Mr. Malarkey 18-1. Potterman, Beware the Bear 20-1, and a few others 25-1 and bigger. Andy, big race of the day, the Ladbroke. Where are you going?
Well, I think it should be gracious of me, being as Andrew's coming on this programme for the first time, and give him first shout at the best race. I think he deserves to have the first shot at least one, and why not give him the best race that we're going to cover? Is that right, Andrew?
Always a gent.
Well, I did win it, but got given it, if that makes sense.
Was that Ginjombra?
Ginjombra finished second, and obviously Be My Royal got disqualified about 15 months later, and the horse that would have won it if he jumped the last was Harbour Pilot.
Yes.
When he walked through the last. Thank goodness. I was very pleased with Paul Carberry missing the last on that occasion.
Bad research for me not to know that, to be honest.
Sorry?
Bad research for me not to know that. That's how I should have introduced you.
Well, I was second in it twice officially, but it is a race that can throw big priced each way horses, which traditionally it does, because often it's a race that you need to stay well, because the ground's often good to soft, sometimes a little bit slower, and that last furlong and a half you'll have a heap of horses going down to the 4th last, and by the time you get to the 2nd last, it tends to thin out. But I'm not sure about this year, with the ground conditions genuinely been on the good side. I believe 2 for Gold's running as well, isn't he, for Kim Bailey?
Yeah.
He's an interesting one. Very, very interesting. I don't think there's too much to choose between him and Vindication. He's a Grade 2 winner at Warwick. And I mentioned about the similar sort of ground conditions to Newbury. He'll have that. Now, is he guaranteed to get the trip? I think he probably is. He travels well. He's a very strong traveller. I thought that race he won at Warwick last year was a strong graded race. And he is a battler. And I know David Bass will be wary. He's on the favourite, Vindication. And obviously he's got the cheap pieces on for the first time as well on Saturday, just to sharpen up his jumping. And that's one thing he will have to sharpen up. Can't be making too many mistakes around there. I think two for Gold's a big each way play. Kieran Gethin's on board, riding with confidence. He's a traveller, and one thing he does do is jump. He's a real decent jumper. I definitely have him as an each way play. I think Cloth Cap's interesting with 10 stone on his back. I thought a good run behind Frodon and West Approach. I'm looking to try and get a few of the top ones beat. I just can't see him being quite good enough. It'll be very competitive. He likes to pop out in front. There'll be plenty of horses popping along. Mr. Malarkey, he wasn't good enough last year. Can he be good enough again off the same mark? Potterman, I'd be slightly worried about the trip for him. He was behind El Presente and the Badger Beer, and he was weakening at the finish when El Presente went and nutted him on the line, and he's £5 higher. Ardlethan could be a bit of a play. He had a pop round in the 2.5 mile race at Carlisle. That was behind Imperial Aura. Well, that form's certainly been franked. Windsor Avenue was in behind. Sam Brown, I'd worry about the ground for him. Black Op, I'd worry about the jumping. That was in the same race up at Carlisle on slow ground. So with Sam Brown and Black Op, the ground would have to be a concern. And Black Op, okay in small runner fields when he's getting his own way, but in a big field handicap, will the jumping hold up? Secret Investor, interested with the ground conditions been good, but a lot of his winning form is in smaller fields. So if you're going to nail me down, I'd be with 2 for Gold because Kim Bailey's horses are flying. Vindication will have to run well, but he has got lots of weight to carry. So I'd be 2 for Gold and probably Cloth Cap against the field.
2 for Gold, 10-1 with a few firms. Bet365, 888, Betfair Sportsbook, Paddy Power, Betfair and Paddy Power both 5 places. Cloth Cap 12-1 with the same 2 firms.
And if you're wondering why John Joe O'Neill doesn't ride Cloth Cap for his father, he wouldn't do 10 stone.
No.
There you go. A bit of inside info there as well. Andy, coming to you now.
Yeah, he's an interesting runner, Cloth Cap. I thought he ran quite well first time out. It looks as though he needed it. This seems to have been the plan. And he's stuck in there right down the bottom. So I think he's going to be close to favourite come Saturday. I can see 1 or 2 good judges putting him up. I think this is a real head scratcher. Last year's was when we had a 14-1 winner, Darasha Counter, and this has got a similar feel to it. I've no doubt the best handicapped horse in this field by a mile is Black Op. Andrew mentioned him. I mean, he basically puts Champion here off 150. The 2 of them ran here last year in a 2.5 mile chase, and Black Up had got beat a length and a half with a good field in behind him. They went a good gallop that day, and he kept up with obviously a horse who went on to win a Grade 1, won the RSA. He ran well in the Corto Star on bad ground over 3 miles, so I wouldn't necessarily think it's the trip with him. But Andrew's dead right. All his best forms are now he's in smallish fields, and I don't think he's a bad jumper, but he doesn't rub the odd 1 or 2.
He just when he meets
his
them
back,
right,
isn't it? He doesn't arch his back.
No. And Johnny Burt gets on very well with him, knows him well. But it's when push comes to shove. Just going down to 4 out, 3 out, 2 out. Yeah. When it matters, and you need a horse, if he has to chip in a short one, is he just going to drag his hind legs in the ditch? That's my slight worry for him.
I'd certainly have him on my shortlist anyway, Black Up. I haven't decided which one to go with yet. A lot depends on sort of how I feel about the race come Saturday morning, and have a look at the conditions tomorrow. But he's definitely one I'm thinking about putting up and taking a risk with. A couple of others I thought Kildesart ran really well first time over hurdles. This looks as though it's the plan. He had an away day here the other day in a schooling gallop. He goes really well in big field handicaps, contrary to 1 or 2 of the ones we've mentioned in smaller fields. He's run beyond the condition at Cheltenham's very good. I'm sure he'll run well for Ben Pauling. And Beware the Bear has been placed in this race the last 2 years. He worked with Santini here the other day. And he's a Cheltenham Festival winner in a big field as well when he won the 3 mile on the first day a couple of years ago. So he's definitely another one to the mix. So that's my shortlist. I'm looking at Beware the Bear, Kildesart, Black Op. So I'm like Andy, I've got 2 or 3 against the field at the moment.
Kildesart 8 on my Bet365, Black Op 17-2 with Hills and Unibet. And who was the third one?
Beware the Bear.
And Beware the Bear 20-1, Bet365 and William Hill. So a couple of bullets there for Andy. We're about to come to a close now. Thank you both very much. Before I let you go, any other horses just for the listeners to take a look at elsewhere on the card on Saturday?
Yeah, in the first race, Lorna Fowler brings over a horse called Politesse. A horse that I've been following over in Ireland for quite a while. I think she's a gorgeous, gorgeous mare. The fact that Lorna's bringing her over, of course, married to what's his name? Bradburn.
Mark?
Mark Bradburn. That's it. Goodness me, I couldn't remember his first name. Mark Bradburn.
Sister of.
But I thought she ran really well first time out in a good Grade 3 at Down Royal, which contained the Queen's Brook in there. Of course, was placed in the Champion Bumper. She just got tired on the run down to the last. That run will definitely bring her on. And for UK punters, when you'll see her that she's got tons of scope. She's a gorgeous looking mare. So Politesse, keep an eye on her in the first race on Saturday.
I'll take you on then, Andy. Well, I love these head-to-heads.
Go on then. So do I.
I love it. Jane Williams has got Gallis Macalo.
Yeah, very tough.
I think has got a real good engine.
Yeah.
Solid. Not sure whether Chester Williams is back yet or Dave Bass is on board. Because Chester's been off a while, but 2 out of 2 so far this season. I'm going to take you on, Andy.
No, that's fine. To be fair, I can rubber stamp that. She's done 2 really good time figures so far.
Going to be interesting to see who gets the better between the two of you. The good thing is, at least Andy's treating your selections with some respect, Andrew. Sometimes the guests aren't afforded that courtesy. Thank you both so much, Andy Holding and Andrew Thornton, for joining us today on the Oddschecker Betting Show preview of the Ladbrokes Newbury Winter Carnival. We've got so much content coming up in the next month or so on our YouTube channel and on our podcast, so please subscribe to both. You can find the podcast on any podcast channel, and of course go to YouTube to subscribe there. Please do download the Oddschecker app as well for the best place, for the best prices, the best tipsters such as Andy, bookie offers, free bets and place terms. Most importantly though, please do enjoy the weekend's racing and please gamble responsibly.